Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Canberra Football Show, episode 57. Michael is in sunny Queensland at the moment, while Russ and I are here in dreary old Canberra. Not as bad as recent weeks in terms of weather, though. Russ, how's it going today? Thanks for joining me again.
Yeah, not too bad, actually. Thanks very much, Matt. It's been an interesting weekend, hasn't it? It wasn't actually as cold as we thought it was going to be. So more for Michael for going away to Brisbane for gallivanting around. What a life that is, hey?
Certainly is. Queensland, in terms of weather anyway, would be the place to be at the moment in Australia in that regard. Let's start with West Canberra Wanderers 2-2 with Canberra Olympic, Geno Cerruti, Thomas Barbatano, and then Luca Flores and Alan James with the goals for Canberra Olympic. West Canberra Wanderers opened the scoring after Angus Bailey put a free kick into the box. It was ricocheted, it seemed, off the defender into Geno Cerruti, who brilliantly brought it down to bury it for 1-0. Olympic struck back not long after, making it 1-1 after Alan James put a great ball into Isosa Ahegi. He broke off, cut it back across the keeper to Luca Flores, who put it in the back of the net. 5 minutes later, Jackson Paisley put a great cross to Zach Barbatano, who was able to slide and reach the ball and hit it across goal. Not very easy to do there. Great sequence as well that led to that for the Wanderers. 3 minutes later, though, Olympic struck back after Alan James converted from the spot kick. Just before halftime to bring it level, this result means Olympic are now 3 points behind O'Connor in fifth place, and West Canberra gained 1 point on Belconnen United and are now trailing by 7 points. West Canberra, though, still yet to pick up their first victory of the season. A lot in this one, Russ. What did you make of it?
Yeah, very entertaining game to watch, wasn't it? I mean, there was 4 goals in it. Either side could have won it. West Canberra really could have had it done by half-time, to be honest, as they've done a couple of times this season. Geno Cerruti's goal was well taken, but on another day, he might have had a hat-trick. Missed a chance earlier than before that, and then one right on half-time, which he was through the middle. Great save from Seb Usai in goal, but, I mean, he probably should have buried that, and he knows that. Look, they showed great commitment to lead twice, but they've coughed up 2 goals again, and they've coughed up points again. And for Dom English and Georgia Konomopoulos, it's getting a little bit late to start pushing up the table. I read a feature with them today, which you can read on the Capital Football website tomorrow, written by one of my interns, Sonia Emanuel, and they're still engaged with the fact that they might make the top 4, and you know that positive thinking is only going to help them, but they've got to start picking some points up. It's getting to that latter stage of the season now. We're halfway through the campaign. They've got 2 points on the board. They're only 7 points away from the teams above them, who are all clustering for that top 4 spot, but they need to start picking up points, and soon. I think Robbie Cadnach would be a little bit disappointed with the way his team played on the weekend. He would have felt that they did enough to perhaps win that match as well. They clawed themselves back conversely from behind twice to get level. Couldn't kick on with it. Their attacking momentum and fluidity wasn't as good as it has been in recent weeks. But at the end of the day, 2-2 was probably a fair result in the reflection overall. And point really doesn't help either side too much, but it's not a disaster. And whilst we're on this subject of Canberra Olympic, just a shout out for Ollie Wiedeke. We mentioned him on the weekend. He's had his open heart surgery, and he's recovering very well. And I know he was watching the game on the weekend. He was sending us some photos of his heart rate spiraling as Canberra Olympic were going through the ebbs and flows of that match. So all the best to him on his recovery.
Indeed, all the best to Ollie Wiedeke. O'Connor Knights with a 3-2 victory over Tigers. Pat O'Rourke scored 2 goals. Noah Steinacker with the other goal for O'Connor. Pat O'Rourke own goal in terms of Tigers, and a Nick Popovich penalty in stoppage time. O'Connor Knights took the lead twice, like we said, through Patrick O'Rourke. One of them was a tap in, and one of them was resulting from a goal kick. O'Rourke also chipped the keeper for his second goal, I believe, less than a minute later for his second. However, it was Paketi Manda who, fair to say, grabbed the headlines with probably, from what I've seen anyway, one of the best assists of the season. A Rabona beautifully went to the feet of O'Rourke, who also did very well to sort of dink it over the keeper. Definitely check out that goal if you haven't yet. O'Connor went 3-0 up after Michael Adams does what he does best, weaved in and out of defenders in the box and then put the ball across to Noah Steinacker, who won the scramble against the keeper to put it in. And then we mentioned Tigers struck twice. It went in off Pat O'Rourke for an own goal, and then Popovic converted from a goal kick. Look, the result probably Russ does a little bit of a disservice to O'Connor from the game, considering both those goals from Tigers were late in. However, at the end of the day, O'Connor did get the 3 points, and now they're in the top four, and they've still got a match in hand. Tigers, on the other hand, slipped to sixth, but they're only 4 points behind that top four.
Yeah, the Knights' result was excellent, wasn't it? Great 3 points for them. I think Patrick O'Rourke can claim a hat-trick there. Got two at the right end and one at the wrong end, unfortunately, although Sam Whitty is a bit annoyed because his header was heading in perhaps before Paddy O'Rourke tried to put it over the bar and put it in his own net. So it goes down as an own goal. But you mentioned it in the first half, there was 2 goals in 60 seconds, and that changed the whole complexion of the tie. I mean, the Knights were playing quite well at that time, and so were the Tigers. There wasn't much in it. And then Patrick O'Rourke scores, and then the Rabona assist, as you said, was quite ridiculous from Fakedi Manda. I'm sure his coaching staff, as he was lining that up, were pulling their hair out and going, why don't you just slide it through normally?
Is that assist of the season for you, or?
Sorry?
Is that assist of the season for you so far?
Yeah, at the moment, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. I've seen a good assist. I mean, it was unorthodox. Yeah. I mean, not one I would have tried myself. I would have tripped myself up, no doubt. But yeah, to have the ability and the vision to do that, I mean, as I was saying, as a coach, you were probably looking at that going, what are you doing? And then it's a perfect through ball. And the finish still needs to be finished. It was a great finish from Paddy O'Rourke. He leads the Golden Boot race now with 7 goals as well. So he's in good form. But yeah, the 2 goals at the end of the game didn't do the Knights justice in a game in which they were 3-0 up at that stage and comfortably in control, thanks to a first at this level from Noah Steinacker. I'm sure he'll score more pretty goals than that one as well. It was a bit of a scramble, but who cares? Goes in off the knee, or it doesn't really matter. But those 2 goals at the end kind of papered over the cracks, I think, a little bit for the Tigers. It's in my preview this week, you'll see I'll describe it as their annus horribilis. It's not been great for them. It's been from start to finish, from the first match of the season in the Charity Shield, where they've got hammered by the Panthers. They've been up and down, backward and forwards. They've not been helped, of course, by the thin depth of their squad this year. Injuries to major players haven't helped them either. They've had to reshuffle. The shining light for them has been the performance of some of their younger boys that they brought in that have stood up quite well and are doing the job at the moment. But yeah, it's a tough one for the Tigers. They're slipping down the table. They're going in the wrong direction. You'd have to say, even though there's points left, that they're not going to win the league this year. It's their defence has gone in that respect. But can they get themselves into the top 4? Yes, they can. Can they be a threat when they get there? Of course they can. They've got enough quality in that team to be a threat whenever they play. So much like the Wanderers, but for different reasons, they need to start picking up points and quickly.
And those two will be playing each other this weekend, so it's a good segue when we get there. The other match that night, which you called with for sure, 1-0 Canberra Croatia over Monaro Panthers. Stephen Dominici scoring against his former side. Cassidy Tando started that attack, putting in a great ball to Mate Busek, who eventually squared it for Dominici, who buried it past Thurtell. Emilio Kishto was sent off 10 minutes from the end of the first half due to a retaliation after being tackled. Monaro were able to hang in the game, avoiding conceding despite being with 10 men. Jordan Thurtell, I saw, was named their man of the match by their supporters club. Once again, sort of just illustrating the superb season he's having so far. Once again, though, another good win for Canberra Croatia, who puts them 6 points above Monaro, who are now in third, but they are still 4 points ahead of Gungahlin United, who are in second. A result with pretty big implications so far in the season, Russ.
Yeah, massive implications for both teams, and not just the result. The sending off of Emilio Kishta for violent conduct, for the retaliation for what was a horrible foul, actually, from Marco Gar. It wasn't a pretty tackle, but you can't react like Emilio Kishta did, unfortunately for him. And he's thrown a punch or reacted in some way, shape or form that's caught the attention of the officials, and he's copped himself a straight red. And after that, of course, you're up against it. It's difficult enough to play against Canberra Croatia with 11, so to play with 10 was tough. But credit to the Panthers, I thought they came at them in the second half and they had a go, and they had 2 chances from Nikos Kalfas to perhaps level it, and he didn't take them on the night. And it's one of those things, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Take nothing away, though, from Canberra, Croatia. The first 20 minutes is the best I've seen them play this season. They were absolutely brilliant, causing havoc down the flanks. Marko Gar one side, Christian Tonoski on the other. Mate Busek was all over the place. There wasn't a bad player in a red shirt, and they deservedly took the lead. Steve Dominici took his goal extremely well. It was a difficult finish. It was a great build-up, and the ball from Busek was superb. But it's still the work to be done against the keeper of third tiles quality, and on the stretch he did so. Frank Keisha tweaked the side after that. He put Carl Senior from full-back into central defence, where I personally think is his best position. That left Josh Calabria on the left flank and Darren Bailey on the right. And then all of a sudden, those running angles down the channels that Croatia had in the first 20 minutes weren't there anymore. Second half, I think Frank Keisha would have been much better pleased with what his side produced. Dino Grinic, on the other hand, well, he would have thought perhaps wasn't their best performance against 10 men, but they were gritty. They always looked a threat on the break, and it's a championship winning game. You go to places, your nearest rivals, you don't play particularly well for a lot of it, but you play well enough to get the result, and they got the result, and that's the 3 points that as you say, puts them 4 points clear at the top of the pile over Gunners, and a chance to extend that this weekend. And the Panthers slipped back to 6 behind, but, once again, we've seen two sides that quality teams. There's been 1 goal between them in the 2 games that we've seen so far at Riverside, and they're both great sides packed full of good players. But at the moment, Canberra Croatia have the match winners in their squad. As you said, implications for the longer term. Andre Carlisle with the broken ribs for 6 to 8 weeks. Emilio Kishta now, of course, will be suspended for a few weeks. So, key players going out at the wrong time for the Panthers.
And you mentioned the team that are now in second place. That is Gungahlin United. That was after their 3-0 victory at the AIS against Belco. The goals from Samuel Habtemariam, Jeremy Habtemariam, and Will Roberts. Gungahlin opened the scoring through Sam Habtemariam. I think I messaged you about this yesterday, Russ. It's seemingly more than half, at least, of that Gungahlin team. Maybe 3/4 of the team got a touch on this ball in the build-up play, which resulted in Tachenko running into the box and squaring it across the keeper for Samuel Habtemariam. One specific chance I did want to mention, though, from Belco was Max Green making a charging run, crossed it to Luke Vallone, who, as you described it, a cheeky backheel, which beat the keeper but hit the post and didn't go in. What a goal that would have been if that turned out. Just before halftime, Will Roberts scored for the 3rd game in a row after Leon Mickel's cross deflected off Habtemariam to the path of Roberts, who buried it. Gungahlin United buried the game, though, in the second half with their 3rd and final goal. It all started from a scintillating counter-attack which was literally just outside their own box, and Nico Abbott, one hell of a run, kept turning it up each gear, it seemed, every stride he had, just turned up that pace and passed it to Habtemariam, who does what he does best, turned around his player and buried it past the keeper. Like we said just before us, huge win for Gungahlin as this puts them above Monaro in second place, while Belco are now 5 points behind the top 4 and 7 points ahead of West Canberra.
Yeah, they were clinical and ruthless. Gungahlin United in the attacking third. That first goal that you mentioned was an absolute joy to watch. It was superb football from front to back. They carved Belconnen apart, and in the end, Sam Habtemariam's got the easiest finish of his life. But the build-up before that was wonderful to watch. It was one-touch football, and as I said, they carved them apart. The second one from Will Roberts was a bit fortunate with the ricochet, but he's in great form, 3-3 now for him, and he took it like a player in the form that he's in. And then, of course, Jeremy Habtemariam comes off the bench to make it 3, as you rightly said. And the irony wasn't lost on me that when they played at McKellar early in the season, Jeremy Habtemariam started the scoring, and Sam came off the bench to make it 3, and it was the other way around this time. And Michael Zukowski must be sick to the sight of those Habtemariam boys who've contributed 4 of the 6 goals in the league against them. Look, it wasn't all doom and gloom, though, for Belconnen, because you mentioned Luke Vallone hitting the post with the back heel flick. Christian Kreska's thundered a shot against the crossbar as well, which had Jacob Quinn floundering. And then there was that chance in the second half where Vallone somehow's headed wide from about 1.5 yards. I mean, it looked easier from where we were to put it in the net. And we don't like to be hypercritical, but, he knows as well as we do that he probably should have scored that. Would have made it 2-1, and it might have been an interesting game from then on in. So from Marcel Munoz' point of view, again, he's got the stacked bench. The superstars, if you like, were all on there. Felipe Bernabeu Madrid, Nico Abbott, Jeremy Habtemariam, and can't remember who else was on there at the moment. Michael John. But they were all on the bench, and it was the young boys he'd given the shirts to that against the Panthers that played so well that kept their places, and they did again. Leon Mickle, outstanding. Will Roberts scored his goal and was an absolute menace along that line, and Sam Hudson-Marion is getting better and better with every minute he plays. So they'd be pretty envious, I think, of the riches that Gungahlin United have, and it's keeping them all happy now for Marcel Munoz and utilising them when they see fit. Because whilst Nico Abbott was great off the bench, I can't see him wanting to be on the bench every week. Can't see Felipe Bernabeu Madrid wanting to be on the bench every week. But now they've got a real difficult decision to make on who you pick. And I'm with Marcel on this. The ones that have got the shirts and are playing well, stay in there. And it's up to the other ones to dislodge them when they come in, whether that be in training or elsewhere. But it's a great problem to have for Marcel Munoz. For Marco Zukowski's Belconnen, as I said, there were chances. Again, approach play was pretty good in the final third. Christian Kreskas, I love watching him play. He's just pure pace and power. Players bounce off him. And if he can find that end product, whether it be a finish on goal or a final ball, he's going to be a real asset to them towards the end of the season. And as you said, they're not far off the top four. Then again, they're not far off the relegation battle either. So, a couple of results either way, and they could be sucked in, same as a few teams around there if the Wanderers start picking up on a run. But if they can go the other way and get a couple of wins under their belt, they're in the top four. So, yeah, it's an enthralling competition. But Gunners well deserved their win on the weekend. They were thoroughly deserving of the 3-0 win, but a bit harsher on Belco not to score.
And Belco do have that opportunity to make up some points, but it does come against a side which they haven't been able to pick up points from this season in Canberra Olympic as they play each other at McKellar Park Saturday, June 25th, 3 p.m. Michael says an Olympic victory here. I'm going to go with the draw. Like you said, Belco still have been in pretty good form despite the loss. They got the win. Obviously weren't able to be up to scratch with Gungahlin, but they've shown enough, and so have Olympic. Granted, Olympic have been on what is 2 draws now in a row. I guess for me, I'm saying it's going to be a third, but I think this is going to be a very competitive matchup. How about, do you have any feelings on this one, Russ?
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you. Look, both sides are on the coattails of the top four at the moment. Both sides will want the 3 points to keep on the coattails of the top four. Should they not get them, of course, then they step away from that because there's a chance that O'Connor might win. There's a chance that the teams around them might win. It's that kind of league that we're in at the moment, of course. So whilst a victory isn't crucial for both teams, I think avoiding defeat is the key on this one to get a bit of momentum through. Wouldn't be surprised if it is a stalemate, but both sides full of goals at the moment and full of opportunities, rather, I should say. There's been chances for them. Just need to be able to take them. Be a good match to watch.
It certainly will. And next up, Tigers FC against West Canberra Wanderers. Saturday, June 25th, 3 p.m. at AIS Grassfield 2. This one, I believe, was a draw last time out at Melrose. I'm going to say it'll be a draw again. I think, Wanderers, they've taken the lead quite a bit, and it just seems like recently they just haven't, been able to keep from conceding an equaliser at the moment. And Tigers, despite probably being second best against O'Connor, they did, sort of try and make that fight back at the end, and they need to start picking up points quick as well. So I think this one's going to be a draw. Michael says a Tigers win here. Any thoughts on this one, Russ?
Yeah, this is the game we've picked to commentate on Saturday. Myself and Steve Forshall will be on this one at the AIS, and I picked it for a number of reasons, and mainly because I believe that both sides are going to come out firing and they need the win. Tigers, of course, are having a bad season. We mentioned it just before in the review of the previous round, and the Wanderers as well need the points too. They've led the last 3, as you quite rightly say, and they haven't held on to any of them. And that's the key. They're still recovering from the cup final. Let's be honest; it's going to take them a long time to get over that. They might not get over it this season or next season. It will be a long, long time before they can let that one go. But this one on the weekend has got the real makings of a really important clash. Both sides know this. I think there's a lot of quality in both teams as well that can cause problems. When I did the game at Melrose, the Tigers defence didn't particularly cope very well with the pace of the front 3 up front for the Wanderers. Now, that might have been because it's on Melrose Synthetic, which is a very difficult pitch to play on for any side. Nick Popovic is in form again now. He's scoring goals, leading the line. You feel that from the body language of some of those players, it's perhaps not the most harmonious place to be at the moment, the Tigers. But I always like watching them play because they always give you something, whether it be bad or good or indifferent. There's always something there with the Tigers. And I feel that this weekend, this game could be an absolute firecracker, and there might be plenty of goals in it.
It very well could be. Another match that we have on that same day at the exact same time, O'Connor Knights against Monaro Panthers, Saturday, June 25th, 3 p.m. at O'Connor in close. Michael's going to say a draw for this one. I'm going to go with an O'Connor win here. I've said constantly I love watching O'Connor play, the way they play football, and they've been able to get big results against the big teams as well. And I think what we've seen recently over the last couple of weeks is close enough to the full potential of O'Connor when they aren't playing, 4 games in 10 days or, that whatever that schedule was for them at that point of the season. You're seeing a team you're seeing them, you're seeing it flourish for them on the weekends. In saying that, though, I think it's going to be a very close matchup. Of course, Monaro without Carl and Kishta for that one. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, this one as well. What do you think about this one, Russ?
Yeah, again, another cracking game. We say this every week. All the matches are really important, but I think this one, again, vitally important for both teams. I mean, of course, an O'Connor win, and they're suddenly right behind Monaro Panthers with a game in hand. A Panthers win gives them a bit of breathing space. For everything you said about the O'Connor Knights, I agree. I mean, we love watching them play because of their attacking intent, because they love to go forward, because they love to keep going. And I think this might be their downfall in some games this season, and it has been in matches we've seen. Almost was on the weekend. They're 3-0 up. They're comfortable. They don't need to go looking for any more, but they tend to leave huge gaps because they've got this really positive mindset that they just want to keep scoring goals. And I don't think Miro Trininic wants to coach that out of them because that's their ethos. That's their way they play. Now, against the Panthers, of course, you've got players that have got real quality in and around that middle third and the final third. There's players that can sit in that middle of the park and use those gaps like Zach McLaren and Gabe Cole to good effect. And the question for the Panthers is now, have they got the firepower at the other end to deal with it? There's Kofi Danning in there, of course. There's Jay Selden. They need a bit more out of him, I think. And they can get a bit more out of him. So this should be a really intriguing match to watch. Two sides that will play football, 2 sides that will go toe-to-toe. And yeah, look, all 3 results are a possibility, and a draw wouldn't surprise me.
And next up, we have Canberra, Croatia, Gungahlin United, Sunday, June 26th, 3 p.m. at Deakin Stadium. This one over the last 3 seasons or so is always a fiery affair, always something in it, whether it's one team dominating the other or whether it's a draw, or whether one... We've literally seen every possibility over the last couple of years with these 3 teams. Anyway, Michael's saying a draw for this one. I reckon... I'm going to say Croatia just to clinch it. This is going to be such a tight game. I wouldn't be surprised if it's only separated by a goal, whether that's a lot or not many goals. We'll have to wait and see. Like we said, there's all possibilities for this one, but it's going to be such a close game. It's going to be really interesting. Obviously, you're going to be looking forward to calling this one, Russ.
Yeah, myself and Ian Worthington will be at this one at Canberra at Deakin Stadium. As you mentioned, last 3 years, there's been some real spice between these two. There's an undercurrent boiling between these two sides that, for some reason, they don't like each other very much, and it usually turns into a must-watch football match when they get on the park together. I mean, I think it was only last season that Gunners went to Deakin Stadium and won 5-1 away from home, and we were there for that one. It was a quite extraordinary performance. There's match winners everywhere you look on that field, and 2 of the most stacked benches you're going to see. No matter which players are picked and which ones are left out, the 2 benches are huge. I mean, you could combine them together and put a side in that will probably compete for the top 4 in the Premier League. It's going to be an absolute belter of a football match to watch. As for who's going to win it, well, who knows? Gunners are in great form at the moment. I think going forward, they've been great. As I mentioned in the review again, they looked a little bit shaky at times defensively. I think that's a question of just getting numbers back and sorting that out, because they've got some of the best players in the division back there in Jack Green and Bernard Brenet centrally. Deakin can hurt them. Gunners can hurt Deakin. I think it's going to be a really good game to watch. There's bound to be some things happening as well. There's duels all over the park that will be worth watching, and neither team will take a backwards step. So whatever you're doing on Sunday afternoon, I suggest maybe stop at 2:55, tune in and watch the match for 2 hours.
It certainly should be a cracker in that regard. As always, thank you very much for joining me, Russ. Any final words before you head off? I saw there's a new signing for Canberra United, as well as the coaching staff being announced.
Yeah, Nicoletta Flannery came on board this morning. There's a few others in the pipeline that we're keeping a bit quiet at the moment, but we'll be releasing over the next few weeks as well. So it's exciting times for the Women's Premier League as well. Exciting times in the Capital Premier League as well. I'm sure you'll be talking about that too, but it's looking like a great competition to be involved in at the moment. Tuggeranong United just pushing themselves 7 points clear, so that's fun. And I'm sure there's other teams will be keen to close that gap. And we just launched today at Capital Football the Club Lime Community Player of the Month Award. So each month we'll have a male and female Community Player of the Month. We're asking the football community to take some time out and just nominate. The form is very easy. You can go on there, and we're looking for someone who's done something special in your club. It could be a milestone appearance. It could be that they've scored 10 goals, or it could be that they made some stunning saves. We just want to hear your football stories. And the winner of the Community Player of the Month Award, both male and female, will get a 6-month free pass to Club Lime so they can work on their fitness as well. So it's a win-win, and we're just asking, I've put it on my Facebook page, I've put it on the Capital Football Facebook page. Please share it around. Please take some time out to log in and nominate your stars, because we don't know about them if you don't tell us. And we want to tell the stories of these fantastic players that are in our community.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to our NPLW section of the show. Joining me today, first time in a while, Jeremy Magan. Jeremy, how's it going today?
I'm good. Thanks for, glad to be back as well. Thanks for having me, Matt.
It's all good. And it was great commentating with you again on the weekend. Some good snapshots as well from Soccer Snaps by Sal. Shout out to Sal there. Go check out his work. Does some great work there. Let's get cracking into the show, shall we? We start with an interesting result over at McKellar Park, 1-1. Belconnen United, Canberra Olympic, Karen Clark and Olivia Fogarty both scored late on for their sides. Olympic took the lead late on after a scramble from a corner leads to Michaela Thornton, laying it off to Olivia Fogarty, who fired an absolute bullet, I have to say, Jeremy, into that top corner. Belco struck back just before halftime, however, to make it 1-1 after Karen Clark whipped in a free kick from just before halfway. It was one hell of a strike, and it seems like it ricocheted off someone, but it went through into the goals. This draw means Olympic now drop another 2 points off the pace, and they are now 4 points off leaders Canberra, Croatia. So even if they do, let's just say they beat Canberra, Croatia in a couple of weeks' time, Croatia will have that 1 point advantage if it comes to that stage. So Canberra, Croatia, Jeremy, in the driver's seat at the moment, but it's still a very long season.
Yeah, exactly. It's this weekend, Olympic against Croatia, so we're a few days away from that big game. But yeah, it was points dropped again by Olympic, and I think there's probably going to be a bit of regrets because they had done the work up until then. They worked well defensively. Belconnen, by all means, was in the game for most of it. Maybe offensively they were not as much a threat as Olympic was. But you look, eventually they were able to get the goal. I think the goal, although it's given to Karen Clark, could definitely be given to Riley Ewan, because it looks like she's the one who's deflecting that ball and clearly changes the trajectory of it so that Jared King can't get it. When I watch the goal, though, I see Karen Clark hitting that free kick, and I see like a drungle of people in the box, and I thought, oh, sure enough, it's sort of like a tactic where the Olympic team is down and then is going to, I don't know, run up to put everybody offside. But then when it doesn't happen, I don't know, it kind of felt like the job was made harder for Janet King, having to negotiate a long ball in the air with that many people into the box. And unfortunately, eventually with actually zero protection, because Riley Ewan was right onto the goalkeeper with no defender around her. I'm sure when they look back at the video, Olympic will see that there was something to do there to try and keep the 3 points. That said, you mentioned it, that goal from Liv Fogarty, poof, what a missile from the edge of the box. I mean, credit where it's due as well. Mickey Thornton gets the ball in the middle of the box, 3 players around her, and she has the lucidity to see that her striker right behind her is in a better position, and she offers it to her on the platter. It was always going to be a very interesting game because the Federation Cup a couple of weeks ago, and as we say, every time those two teams play against each other, a few Belconnen players who have swapped jersey in the off-season, there was definitely a bit of intensity and a few, I'd say, engaged tackles. but it was all on good spirits, as it is always in the WNPL. I'm looking forward to seeing round 3 of this game, because I think it's one of those games with, of course, the duel with Croatia that is going to keep us awake until the end of the season.
Yeah, my bad. It actually is this week. I don't know why I thought it was. You know why? Because on the weekend, when we
I didn't get it
not this weekend, so it just sort of went into my mind. One quick question about Belco before we move on. This is their third competitive match against Olympic now. Haven't gotten the win, but they've got a draw. They had a very good second half against Olympic in the Fed Cup, and they were, close to getting a draw as well in that first round as well. But so this is the team, even though, they are underdogs every time they face Olympia, they always step up to the challenge, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, it's both teams. I think Belconnen steps up. I think Olympic as well. They're still in their sort of infancy. It's the first season that all those girls are playing together. So as soon as they play against teams that offer a bit more of a resistance, and we say it every time, and it's not to disrespect some of the teams in the competition, but when you play Belconnen, Canberra, Croatia only once in a while, kind of thing, it's also hard for a team like Olympic to step up and to be ready for the better teams and the bigger challenges everywhere on the park. And I think that's what we see when they face Belconnen. Not only they have to attack well, they also have to defend well. They're not allowed to make any mistakes in the middle of the park, otherwise it's going to be costly for them. And I think Belconnen know that very well. I said it last time, Scott Conlon mentioned that just before the Federation Cup semi-final. Belconnen maybe doesn't see themselves being able to fight for the Premiership, but they know that for the 2 other trophies, it's just a matter of being good for 180 minutes. They were very close for the Federation Cup. I think they have every chance to actually challenge both Croatia and Olympic for the championship, because if they make it to the semi-final, then it's just about to be good twice to be able to get to those teams. And we are seeing that they can get results. Again, Olympic, it was a bit harder against Canberra, Croatia. There's a wealth of experience, of course, at Deakin. But I think it's very encouraging for the youth of Belconnen that they can play to that level against Olympic. It's a nice little warning / wake-up call maybe for Nicole Begg and her players, that when they're going to have to play against those people, against those teams, they're going to have to really step it up themselves and score when it counts, and be very focused up until the very last minute defensively.
And moving on, we have did we find out, is this the only 0-0 draw we've had so far in the league this season in terms of NPLW? West Canberra Wanderers 0-0 against Wagga City Wanderers. Big result for Wagga City Wanderers as they collect their first points of the season in this stalemate at Melrose. The draw means they are only 3 points now off Tuggeranong, still in last place. West Canberra gained yet another draw for the second week in a row after they drew CUA last week. This means Belco only trailed them by 1 point, so it's starting to hotten up in that third position. Thoughts on this result, Jeremy? Our first 0-0 of the season. Bound to happen eventually.
Bound to happen, right? A great result for the Wagga City Wanderers, as you mentioned. It's great to get, I guess, half a monkey off the back and get a point finally, take off on the ladder. It's a young team, and we know the challenges that comes with this club in the Riverina. So it's good that they were able to keep West Canberra to a 0-0 on their home turf at Melrose, with a synthetic pitch that the Wagga City Wanderers aren't used to play on. As far as the Wanderers go, the one from West Canberra, maybe a bit disappointing. They used us to great results. They beat Belconnen, but then they play against Canberra United Academy and the Wagga City Wanderers, which are, the table at one point was really split in two. So there are two teams from the bottom 4, and they're unable to get a win against those two teams. It's a bit disappointing in the sense of it's slowing them down in their run for the semifinals, and it's putting them in a position where they could be in danger if they don't get results again against the Canberra Croatia, the Olympic, or the Belconnens. So it's a bit disappointing when you see the game itself. I mean, West Canberra probably dominated most of it, quite a few opportunities, some wonderful saves there by Ebony Walker from the Wagga City Wanderers, and defensively the job was done well by the team from South New South Wales. As far as West Canberra defensively, they did have a few scare. I mean, they could have been surprised here and there by Wagga City. And I think it's also important for Wagga City to understand that if they are good enough to defend like this, and if they're good enough to put the doubt into the other team's mind, they have to kill it. They have to be able to be a bit more efficient offensively, because that's the way they're going to get their first win this season. It's encouraging for them, and hopefully they'll get that win soon.
And next up, we have Canberra, Croatia, 8-0 over Tuggeranong United at home. Krista Hagen with a goal, Palombi with a hat-trick, Jenny Bissett with a brace, Grace Gill with a goal, which was a penalty, and Bella Baric also scoring at the end. Some great goals here from Croatia. The second goal in particular, I thought was a great piece of team play, some good triangles, good 1-2s, where maybe half the team, I think, maybe got a touch on that ball. Palombi's second goal was a nice bullet above the keeper's head. Jenny Bissett got on the end of a cross and put in one of the better headers you'll see in Canberra. What a header that was, and Bella Baric doing what she does so well. Like you say, Jeremy, the ball is glued to her feet when she moves around players. This win means, of course, like we said before, 4 points ahead of Olympic, who drew with Belco. Tough day at the office, though, for Tuggies, and while it usually is against a switched-on Canberra Croatia side, unfortunately, they weren't able to find that first half that they had against Canberra Croatia at home, where Canberra Croatia, found it hard to break them down for the first half. I know the floodgates opened in the second, but Tuggeranong really showed in that first half. Unfortunately for them, they weren't able to replicate one of those halves here. Thoughts on this result, Jeremy? Obviously, it's important for Croatia to go 4 points ahead now.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of looks like the training wheels are off for Canberra, Croatia. It's every season is the same. They start the way they start, and then slowly but surely they become better and better and better. And they started well, and they're just getting into that second gear mode, getting ready for round 2, round 3, and then the finals. We said a couple of times, Brittany Palombi hasn't scored 10 goals yet, and there she is now, round 10 with 11 goals now. So she's truly and well there for the race for the golden boots. And yeah, you mentioned it. It was a splendid second goal there. The header by Jenny Bissett reminded me a little bit of that header from Robin van Persie when he jumps away from the defense. Yeah. It's hard, right, to head one forwards. Nice header as well by Krista Hagen, perfectly weighted. Actually, I think it's pretty hard to head a ball while you're going backwards, and she did that well. Canberra Croatia is just impressive offensively. They just have so much firepower. It's hard to stop for any team, and as soon as you start conceding 1-2, then you're on the back foot. And if you're not able to shut them down, it's always going to be complicated. And I think that was the case for Tuggeranong. We say it every time. When you play those teams, it's about learning how to concede less next time, learning how they play, observing for the young girls, trying to get a few tips from those experienced players and those very talented players there at Deakin. I don't think Tuggeranong was going there to try and get a result. I think they'll get some information still. For Canberra Croatia, I think it's the perfect way to make sure that the rest of the teams are aware that they are the reigning champions, that regardless of the bad result that they got, that semi-final elimination and that draw against Olympic, that they're in it to win it. They're in it to get a third premiership in a row. And it's going to make this duel this weekend even more important.
It certainly will. And talk about a duel. We had one, didn't we, at Gungahlin in close. Gungahlin United 2, Canberra United Academy 2, Whiteley with 2 goals, McQueenie with a goal, and Hampson with a goal for CUA. Gungahlin came back from behind twice to share the spoils with CUA. We saw glimpses of what Gungahlin does really well in this matchup. The connection between the midfield, the triangles, the combination play, the skill with the DeMarco sisters and Sharon Chow, all working together there. This was on display for both of their goals, especially the first goal. Before that, it's arguable you can say that even though that link-up play was there in midfield, that in that final third, they weren't able to find their transition play. And then, 5 minutes later, after we said that, they score the goals in that regard. So Gungahlin probably would be the happier of the two to get a point near the end. In saying that, though, when they came off, it seemed like every player there was disappointed to get a draw, considering what that means for them at the table. Of course, they're both 5th and 6th, respectively, at the moment. CUA started both the halves very strongly, I would say, Jeremy. They'd probably be a little more disappointed, considering they did lead this game twice. And there was really encouraging stuff here from CUA. Riley McQueenie scored an absolute belter of a goal from outside the box. Fourth time a charm, I think it was. That was their fourth shot from range. You can see they were trying to do that and trying to score from there. Yeah, and I thought McQueenie was probably, if we could choose a player of the match, I would probably say her. She was absolutely outstanding, I thought, in defense. The intensity, but the timing of her tackles, along with Nadia Zachman as well at the back, did very well. But also going forward, they both proved very good standouts for this side. They were very calm and composed on the ball. And like I said, you're starting to see that intensity now that we saw that they had last season under Vicky Linton. So it was a very interesting match here, Jeremy. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, quite a bit to unpack, right? I mean, it was an absolute pleasure to call that game with you, Matt. I think it was a good game, a bit of intensity here and there, some scrappy moments, but it was probably the result of the intensity and the aggressivity. Riley McQueenie, I can only agree with you, probably deserves player of the match on that one. I was texting with Sarah West after the game, and I told her all the good that I thought about the player, and Sarah was saying that, yeah, every time she comes in, she just gives her whole training game whenever the opportunity is there. She's there to answer. So it's great to see, again, more youth talent coming in from the academy as we expected to. It's good that they keep delivering. It would be disappointing, I think, for the academy that they weren't able to keep that game. The first goal was great. The second goal was a bit of a fluke. But what we see, I think, from both sides actually, is that they're great in the build-up. They're pretty good in the midfield. The press sometimes is a bit uncoordinated, but both teams actually are suffering as far as their number 9 goes. I mean, it's always hard to find goal-scoring opportunities for the academy. It's probably the name of the game. It's the youth. It's the lack of experience. It's the fact that they have to change their team a little bit too often, probably for Sarah West's liking. For Gungahlin, we said it at the preview. You lose Jed Brown, you lose LKI Tolu. Michelle Heyman, who doesn't play every game, of course, and then all of a sudden you don't have anybody who can play in the number 9. I mean, Ella Brown was there this weekend, and we're used to see her more on the wing or even as a right back sometime. So clearly we could see with her move, right? She kept taking the wing. We could see that she's more used to play wide, and so it's a bit harder to be able to find those targets. And then every time you keep bringing the ball up, you struggle to find somebody free, an anchor player really in the number 9 position. It's hard to always go back and defend. And I think that's what we see, that Gungahlin was not 100% focused for the whole 90 minutes. And that's what they conceded, unfortunately. Like you said, we did see what Gungahlin is good at. We did see the football that they can play and a lot of promises. It's just about putting those goals in. And I think it's true for both teams. But of course, we expect Gungahlin to be much higher on the table. So we probably expect them to find the recipe earlier than later. They're traveling to the Riverina. Might be a good opportunity for them to try and get that boost of confidence by getting a win away. Of course, to be able to get that, they need to make sure not to underestimate the Wanderers.
Indeed, that is the case. Let's get straight into those games. You mentioned one of them there, but we'll start from the top. NPLW round 11 fixtures. We got Olympic versus Croatia. The big one, Sunday, June 26th, 2:30 p.m. at O'Connor enclosed. Michael said a Croatia win for this one. I'm going to go right down the middle with the draw. I think especially with Olympic getting that draw on the weekend, they're probably, not that they already wouldn't be extra pumped because they were 2 points behind, but now they really, it probably is more important that they try and get the win. Obviously, Croatia, we all know their quality as well. I can't pick this one. I'm going to go straight down the middle. How about you, Jeremy?
I'll go for an Olympic win just to be different from the two of you, but we know that it's just going to be a battle, right? For Olympic, it's a bit of a win or die kind of thing, because if they can't beat Croatia this weekend, it might kind of be them saying goodbye to the Premiership. Because it's hard to pick when Canberra, Croatia can make a mistake after that game. So they have to win. So, hopefully it'll be enough of a motivation for them to do what they did during the Federation Cup semi-final, to be able to get the best of the reigning champions.
Wagga City Wanderers, Gungahlin United, Sunday, June 26th, 2:30 p.m. at Gissing Oval over in Wagga. Gungahlin only one win this season. I believe it was against Wagga. It was a positive result for Wagga. I just think I'm going to say Gungahlin on this one. I just think from what I saw on the weekend, the combinations, it's there. The positiveness of that team is there. They just need to find it. And I think this could be a chance for them as well. Michael's saying Gungahlin win. How about you here, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'll say the same thing. I think it'll be an interesting game, and I don't think it'll be as open as it was during round one, because the Wanderers are a bit better in form. But yeah, I'll go for a Gungahlin win anyway.
Tuggeranong United, West Canberra Wanderers, Sunday, June 26th, 2:30 p.m. at Canberra 201. This should be an interesting one. West Canberra haven't lost yet to anyone who isn't Canberra, Croatia, or Olympic, but they have got a few draws recently. So maybe this is the time for if Tuggeranong United are going to get some points against them. They're just so solid at the back, aren't they, West Canberra? I'm going to go for a West Canberra win here. And Michael says that as well. How about you, Jeremy?
I'll go for a draw. I think Tuggeranong will play their best level to try and get a point against one of the top four. It'll be a good performance for them. So yeah, I'll go for a draw.
And another match that should be a very interesting one, Canberra United Academy against Belconnen United, Sunday, June 26th, 5:10 p.m. at Hawker Football Centre. Mark says Belco here. I'm going to agree. I'm going to say Belco, but I think this will be a very close matchup. But I just think with Belco's, getting another draw, another positive result against someone like Olympic, I think that's only going to do them good in that regard. How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'll go for Belco win as well. I do think that's going to be a very interesting game. It was only decided by one goal last time around, but Belconnen has the experience, and same thing, they know that there's something to do with Canberra Olympic and Canberra Croatia facing each other this weekend. So I'm sure Scott Conlon and Maddie Moore will be there to motivate their girls to get a result when it matters most.
Jeremy, thank you very much for joining me as always. Any last words before you go? I see you've been doing quite a few videos on your French football podcast at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not stopping. It's the off season, but there's still so much to talk about in French football that I won't stop. Thanks for having me, and I hope I'll see you Saturday. Come to O'Connor. Let's call that Olympic Croatia game together if you're free.
On Sunday, you mean?
On Sunday afternoon. Sorry, well, I'm going to rock up there on Saturday and be like, "Well, where's the game?" Sunday it is.
You'll be at the I think it's O'Connor against Monaro, so you'll be rocking up. I'm not sure if Russ is doing that one.
I'll see you watch football.
What are you doing here? I didn't realize we're having 3 commentators today. Awesome.
Ready with my lapel mic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to our CPL segment. Rejoining us on the show for the first time in a while is Chris Webb. Webby, how's it going, mate? Thank you very much for joining me today.
Yeah, really good. And thanks again for having me.
Anytime, Webby. Let's start with the Riverina derby, shall we? 2-1 to Wagga City Wanderers. Cazzola and Ochieng with the goals for the Wanderers. Donadell with Mason Donadell, I believe, with the goal for Yoogali. Huge victory for the Wagga City Wanderers in this derby. Wagga came from behind 10 minutes after they conceded to go level in the game. That was from the Cazzola strike. They needed to score later on in a tough battle for Wagga City Wanderers. Huge result for them as they are now only 2 points off the top 4. Yoogali, on the other hand, this is their second loss in a row after falling to Tuggies last week. But before that, they had some pretty good form going for them. Unfortunately for them, though, this loss means they are now 5 points behind Wagga in 7th place and 7 points off the top 4. Webby, thoughts on this one? It's both teams that have had probably up and down seasons. They've both had some very good results, but they're probably a mixed bag so far.
Yeah, look, it's probably going to be the theme for the evening, but it's just the consistency of squads that teams are being able to put out. Was always going to be a problem this year with COVID lurking around. But Yoogali is clearly been hit, and it's always hard for Yoogali. Similar for Wagga, when they have to travel, it's hard to always full strength traveling. But it seems even playing some games at home, both teams have kind of been missing players a fair bit, even at home. And so it's always hard to predict these games. You would have thought Yoogali at home probably would have got through this one. But, only 2 weeks ago, they were ahead of Wagga on the table. But Wagga's 2 wins in a row, and all that, that's how tight it is kind of down the bottom. That just chucks you straight into the top 4 mix. But look, as I said, they've both been, and as you said, both been pretty inconsistent, and consistency is the key to kind of get through into that top 4. They've both had some pretty big wins over some of the top teams, but then they've had some kind of big losses in terms of, goal difference. So I think it's going to be hard for both of them to make the top 4 from here, but I think both of them are still both have a shout, I think, mainly because those top 3 or 4 teams are not consistent either. And so they're not racing away. There's only, as we'll talk about later, really one team that's racing away, and everybody else is kind of going on little runs and dropping. So it's definitely not over it. But I think for Yoogali, it's really about how they can just get the people on the park. I think that's going to be the, we're not even halfway through the season, and it's how they're going to go for the next kind of 10 or so weeks, really.
And next up, big win for Brindabella Blues, 3-2 over ANU. Dagan Smith, Warrior own goal, and Majori Banks goal as well. Deans scoring both the goals for ANU. Chase Deans put ANU in the lead through a header off a corner. Just before halftime, it was another corner and another header. But this time it was the Brindis that equalised through Deegan Smith as the youngster adds to his growing goal tally for this season. Brindis proceeded to mount their lead, adding another 2 goals to their tally through a Warrior own goal, and a Majori Banks completed a stellar bit of team play from what I saw there. Chase Deans was able to grab another goal after ANU were able to put a great ball over the top to him, and he chested it, then swerved his defender and placed it in the bottom corner. So good goal there from Deans. This win for the Brindis, though, means they remain within touching distance of the top 4. And when we mean touching distance, probably a pinky in terms of goal difference is the reason why they are in 5th place. So they can sniff it now in that regard. Loss for ANU, though, means they fall below White Eagles into 4th place, and they are now 2 points behind White Eagles. Quite a lot in this one in terms of both teams' seasons, but fair to say, Webby, that considering how well the Brindis have performed against top 4 sides this season, a win against someone in the top 4 was bound to come, was it not?
Oh, definitely. We've talked about Brindy a fair bit, and extremely well coached, and Ray's really got a young group who he knows he can mould, and even though they're young, there are some very good key players in that team with a lot of experience, NPL experience. His son, for example, Jordan Host, Curtis. So it's a good spine to that team, and with extremely well drilled. They're very, very difficult to play. They're actually quite a good team to watch, and it's not that unexpected that they pick up these wins. Probably what is the unusual thing is ANU's form, the up and down. ANU, they have been such a consistent team over really the last decade. The only season, they're 5-5 now, and the only season I can remember them being similar to this was the first year of COVID, where we had that very short season. And, I think it was an 8-game season, and they were 4-4, and that knocked them out. That knocked them out of the top 4. And so this season is very much echoing how that one went. And so really the top 4 for a team that, well, I can say everyone, but at least me, predicted to be 100% in the race for promotion, now really can't even say that the top 4 is guaranteed. And while promotion is not 100% gone for them, it will be, they'll need a miracle, quite a miracle to get them through from where they are now. And it's interesting to see, some big changes. I think Sam Carter's can never be underestimated, the influence that he has on that team, and obviously changes in the coaching staff. But it's clear that everything is not 100% there at ANU.
And next up, White Eagles 6-2 over Western Molonglo. Skouros and Castillo with the goals for Western Molonglo. Buth, Kagler, Hines, Law, Deng, and Cashman with the goals for the Eagles. Eagles jump into third place with their victory over Western. It's also their return to Woden Park. Haven't played too many games there since it's been ravaged by wet weather. Western Molonglo haven't played there too much either. It's also their home ground, so both teams returning home. There were some really worked team goals here from White Eagles. When they start flowing, they really do start flowing. That is one thing that has always been a thing with White Eagles over, for a while. Western still eluding their first points of the season, but they were able to get a couple of goals in this one, and they produced there were some good pieces of play as well for some of these goals. The first one from Buth was aftermath of a mammoth free kick from far out, and then the second one I remember was a pretty well worked goal. Also, thoughts on this one, Webby?
Yeah, look, obviously I was there, and so I can talk to you for 2 hours about this game. White Eagles were good. Dayan especially, I thought, was very good in the middle. Very fluid how the team flows from a 4-3-3 to a back five, or essentially a back three, as the two fullbacks push up and Dayan drops from 6 into centre back, and it's very seamless, and it's hard for the opposition team to follow those. And when you got very attacking fullbacks like Ed McCarthy, it makes things very, very difficult to play against. Some of the goals were really nice, especially the very last goal. Chide getting the ball down the wing, and Kendrick made a really nice run into the box, but instead of squaring it across, he cut it to the top of the box, and Kashi came running in and buried it. It was a very, very nice goal. Look, Weston, it's just they're completely decimated. They're missing 14 players across the two squads. So really, it's more of a miracle that they can even put teams out there. I think 5 guys started first grade who played in the 23s game. So six fresh players for first grade against a free-flowing White Eagles team is not the way you want to set up for that game. So all the bench were young 23s players who came on after playing 90, and they were instrumental in the second goal, actually. So Lorenzo Pilipao, his first ever game in first grade, really, he had an absolute blinder for the last half an hour. He came on and set up Trey Castillo, who with his first touch in his first grade debut hit a lovely volley in. And Chris McEwen, who actually had a very, very good game. Him and Will Liston at centre-back, actually, I thought were quite outstanding, which is interesting when the team conceded 6 goals. But his free kick was fantastic. Possibly did cross the line, but Fotis Skouros made sure that the ball ended up over the line anyway. So, look, it was good. Probably the goal a minute into the second half when the Western centre back and fullback collided with each other going for a high ball when there was no pressure on them, and then it just allowed Lee Hines to roll through and score 35 seconds into the second half. I think that was probably the turning point in that game. If they could have held that only 2-goal margin and got a goal back, there might have been a game, and only might, because White Eagles were clearly the better side. But that third goal was probably, when a team is already on their knees because of fatigue, I think that just probably put a kind of dagger through their spirit, I guess. But look, they just need to keep rolling on and seeing how they can do it. It's very tough. There's no coach, and Chris and Ash essentially player coaching together. So they're doing a really good job of just trying to keep the morale up.
Indeed. And last up, Michael and I were saying last week, it was the biggest game of CPL so far this season. Tuggeranong United against Queanbeyan City. Tuggeranong United come out victors. Walker and Stevens with the goal. Of course, earlier in the season, Queanbeyan did get the victory over Tuggeranong United. I believe it was 1-0 in that encounter at High Street. Sam Walker netted the opener for Tuggies after his penalty earlier in the game was saved. This was his 11th goal of the campaign, if I'm not mistaken as well. Luke Stevens was able to cap off a victory for his side in this top of the table clash. This was a huge win for Mitch Stevens' side, as they are now on top of the table above Queanbeyan by a massive 7 points. Queanbeyan suffering their second loss in a row, and their only 2 defeats so far of the campaign. And it's also their 4th match where they haven't grabbed the win, as they drew the other 2 before that. And like we said, unfortunately for them, they are now 7 points behind Tuggeranong, who lead the race for promotion. With still more than half the season to play, Webby, you don't want to count out Queanbeyan just yet. However, 7 points against the Tuggeranong side that don't seem to be slowing down anytime soon is a bit of a hill to climb.
Yeah, definitely. So look, to say I was disappointed with the results is an understatement, and that's nothing against Tuggeranong. It's just for the fact I think they're that good that I don't see them letting this lead go. So I would have rather a Queanbeyan win just to make a bit of a title race in here. That 1 point would have made things exciting. Look, they've dropped 3 points in 10 games. I can't see them dropping 7 points in the next 11 games, yet alone Queanbeyan going 100%. So, look, I've probably put the kiss of death on Tuggeranong right now, but I think that they're going to go away with it. But they have to show the form. They still got to play ANU twice. They still got to play Queanbeyan again. So they can drop those points, and White Eagles. And as you said, Brindy, everyone can take points off them. But the fact that they've only lost that one game and essentially not just, snuck 1 goal wins, but they've been reasonably comfortable wins in pretty much all their other games. I just can't see 7 points getting dropped for them. But looking at massive kudos to Mitch and Johnny Cadge for all the work that they've put in, and just keeping the core of that team together that got relegated was a tough gig in itself. But the guys that they picked up, Sam Walker and Luke Stevens, massive pickups for them. And, I'd almost think if those 2 were playing for them last year, would they have got relegated? Quite possibly not. And, Queanbeyan, look, I think that it's disappointing for them for such a fantastic start to the season. It's been a tough kind of last 4 or 5 weeks for them. But look, it's not 100% over, and they can still keep going, and if they get a similar run to how they started, who knows? But similarly, if they don't kind of get out of this rut, White Eagles are only 1 win behind them now. Brindy, who are 5th, are only 5 points behind them. So all of a sudden, it would not be outside the realms of possibility for them to find themselves out of the top 4, in even a few weeks. Similarly, they could almost be, 2 or 3 points behind Tuggeranong in 3 or 4 weeks. So, look, it's a good football league. I think Queanbeyan have brought in a couple of new players in this little transfer window, which will help them. I think they might have lost the Bhutanese player who came in. So, it's kind of, they're probably maybe in a slightly better position, in which, again, this 21 game season in this COVID year, it's a war of attrition to a degree. And so, bringing in those reinforcements will probably help them out.
It's certainly going to be an interesting end to the season. It's interesting how you brought up if they had Sam Walker and Stevens last season, would they have got relegated? Because one thing I think, Tuggeranong, even though they were in a lot of those games, they were competitive, it was goals that they were lacking last season. So it is an interesting prospect to bring up in that regard. Let's head into the CPL Round 11 fixtures. Let's start with Brindis against Weston Molonglo, Saturday, June 25th, 3 p.m. at Ipen Park in Corwell. Michael says Brindis win for this one. I'm going to say Brindis win as well. They've just been very, very impressive from what I've seen so far this season. How about you, Webby?
Look, again, I'll get in trouble, but I'll say a Brindy win. I'll say a Brindy win as well, purely because I think, as I said, 14 players out last week. I don't think it's going to be much better this week. So it's not like there were players who were missing for a game. There's players who are overseas, injured, COVID, all kinds of things. So it's still going to be a very big slog for Weston, at least for the next 3 or 4 weeks. So I can't see them picking up points in that period.
Next up, Canberra White Eagles, Yoogali, Saturday, June 25th, 3 p.m. at Woden Park enclosed. Michael says White Eagles. I agree. It should be a pretty close match. It's always a cracking match when these two play, but some of the free-flowing play we've seen from White Eagles has been pretty impressive over the last couple of weeks. For that reason, I'm going to say Eagles. How about you, Webby?
Yeah, look, definitely not a foregone conclusion, but I think I'll say Eagles as well at home, as we talked about. It's always difficult for Yoogali to travel with their full squad. And, Eagles look like, talking to those guys on the weekend, they've got not full squad, but close to a full squad, but a very strong squad that they're putting out. So, I don't think that anyone really kind of pulled up lame on the weekend. So I think that they'll have a very similar squad. And look, it's funny. I talk about this with a few people. Points tallies are a good way of looking at the indication of how teams are going. And that's obviously how leagues are decided. But really a better indicator is goal difference in terms of the strength of a team. And White Eagles goal difference is actually fantastic at the moment. It's the second highest by a fair bit. And, while they're a +18 while Yoogali's -10. So to me, that kind of shows the form that these two teams are coming into. So, yeah, I'll go White Eagles.
Next up, Wagga City Wanderers, Queanbeyan City, Saturday, June 25th, 3 p.m. at Gissing Oval. This is an interesting one because if you're Wagga, this is probably the best time for you to play Queanbeyan. Queanbeyan had to come from behind as well. I know they had a few players missing in that Wagga match, but you have to play what's in front of you. And Wagga did take that lead, and Queanbeyan did have to come from behind the last time they played. I'm gonna say Queanbeyan victory here, but I'm sure Wagga will be looking into this, saying that they can get something from this game. I think it's going to be a close one. Michael says Queanbeyan as well. How about you, Webby?
Yeah, look, I say Queanbeyan too, and I think that from the disappointment of the Tuggeranong game, as you said, they really know now they need to win to keep the race alive, and they need to win to not get dragged into a race, a 4th, 5th battle. But similarly, Wagga, 2 wins on the trot. If they can put both Jakes, Ochang and Pelonges on the park together up front, it's very dangerous. It's a dangerous strike force, and they can hurt pretty much anybody. So, as you said, you would not be surprised, but I'll tip Queanbeyan as well.
Next up, ANU Tuggeranong United, Saturday, June 25th, 3:15 p.m. at ANU South Oval. This should be an interesting one. The last time they played each other was 5-1 to Tuggeranong. That's the one where I showed up in the second half, and then it was already game over by that point. Look, Tuggeranong look in very, very good stride. Like you said, not only have they won a lot of their games comfortably this season, but a lot of the games that they have won comfortably, they've mostly been finished in the first half, which is interesting. In saying that, though, ANU, I know they came off a loss this week, but they did get a massive win over Queanbeyan. Not last week, but the weekend after. So before. So ANU have proved that they can beat the sides on top of them this season. It's just whether they can put on that exact same performance against Tuggies, who are currently flying at the moment. Michael says Tuggies as well. How about you, Webby?
Look, even though I said I can't see Tuggies dropping many points, I'm going to go for a draw for this one. Again, ANU have quality on the pitch. To me, to be honest, on par quality as Tuggeranong do. They obviously just don't have the structure and camaraderie and togetherness, I think, as it's just confidence is probably the right word, as Tuggeranong do at the moment. But as you said, they've been up and down, and if this is one of their ups, there's no saying that ANU can't even win comfortably. But I think a draw kind of therefore suits my sitting on the fence here. With Rory Spears being picked up from ANU from Canberra, Croatia. You know, he's got NPL1 New South Wales experience. Him and Max Model on the wings for ANU. That's extremely dangerous. Can hurt anybody. So while we talked about Tuggeranong's firepower, ANU has firepower, and I can see a couple of goals. You know, 2-2, 3-3 in here.
It certainly should be an interesting matchup. While we got you here, do you have what's your update from State League One? Who's leading the pack?
Oh God, you know, with our fantastic dribble, it's very
that's
hard
why I asked you, obviously.
Very hard to keep abreast of these things. But look, I know, you know, Weston finally lost their first game last week to Bell North, who are a very strong side. But they bounced back just on the weekend, just gone with a very good, I think it was an 8-1 win over one of the ANU teams. However, I know Gungahlin Juventus has been similarly putting in some goals. They won 9-0 against Madura on the weekend. So, yeah, I think those two teams are probably just pushing away a little bit from everybody else. But, you know, one of the other ANUs and UC and Bell North are still there and thereabouts in the pack. But I think it's looking like a Western Juventus race at this point.
Yeah, the battle of the black and white stripes.
Yeah.
It is. Webby, thank you so much for joining me today. Any last words?
No last words. Look, thanks for having me on, and I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you very much. As always, everybody, enjoy your weekend of football. That was episode 57 of the Canberra Football Show.